I always like to peek into the little free libraries just to see if there are any hardbound books or any other books really that I can use for any projects, which is what I'm about to do. And this one happened to be extra special. I really like this cover. And I'm going to use it to make a notebook using some more of my paste papers that I made recently. And I wanted to experiment to see if I could do a paste paper application on both sides of the papers. I'm going to use these double-sided papers as the pages inside. So to start, I'm just going to take a box cutter. You could use a ruler if you wanted to. I'm just going to cut right along this here, which starts taking the text black out. And then I'm going to do this side back here. I'm not going through the bookboard at all. I'm just going through this end paper. Oh, I didn't go through all the way. Try that again. So I'm basically going right down this part here. This is my paper cutter, but I brought it into work to use in my art room, which is why it says only for teachers. I'm going to measure this length here, which is about 7 3/4, and I'm going to make it about 1/4 of an inch smaller so that there's 1/8 of an inch on both sides. So 7 3/4, so I'm going to cut it to about 7 1/2. But of course this paper cutter is too small. So I'm going to cut it on my big paper cutter. So see how, if we line it up, there's just a touch, about 1/8 of an inch of the cover sticking out on this side and this side, which is how these end papers are also measured. I have all of my pages together and I'm just going to fold my signature. I'm doing one signature here. I'm gonna have all of these extra pages sticking out because I'm eventually gonna fold those in once this is stitched together. So stick around so you can see what that ends up looking like. I'm gonna do a 5-hole pamphlet stitch. I've done a pamphlet stitch video in the past for some mini notebooks, which I'll link below, or you can click above here and see that. I'm going to get a pencil, a ruler, my punching board. This is just 2 pieces of bookboard that I put on top of each other. As you can see, I use it as my protector when I'm punching through things so I don't punch into my table. And I need my awl, some waxed linen thread. If you want to use waxed linen thread for your project but don't want to buy a whole 100-yard spool, I sell 5-yard lengths in my Etsy shop. So definitely highly recommend waxed linen thread for bookbinding projects. I'm going to decide where I want my 5 holes to be. So one of my 5 holes is going to be in the middle. This isn't gonna work. This isn't, I'm gonna get a real ruler. This is 7 1/2 inches. I'm gonna make a hole right in the middle, which 7 1/2, I don't know, 3 1/2 is 7, so 3 3/4, roughly? Sure. Okay, 2 inches. 2 inches from this side. This isn't going to be evenly spaced. And I'm gonna do 2 inches from this side, so 7.5, 6.5, 5.5. So those are evenly spaced. And then maybe I'll do 1/2 inch from the edge. So they're kind of evenly spaced, but not really. All right, so I have 5 holes, which is why it's called a 5-hole pamphlet stitch. I'm going to also punch my holes in this. I'm just gonna line up my ruler here in a straight line, and then I'm gonna remember where I punched my other holes, which were at 3 3/4, 5.5, 7, 2, and 1/2 inch. We are going to stitch this up. So I'm gonna do 3, maybe 4 lengths just to be safe. 1, 2, 3, 4 of my wax linen thread. So I'm gonna start in the middle hole, and then I'm gonna go through this middle hole on my spine. Okay, I'm gonna leave a little tail in here, and then I'm going to go through the next hole, which sometimes you need to go through the spine and then the signature. So on the other side, it's just one stitch. Then I'm going to go through this last hole. Tighten it up a little bit. I'm going to go back through this hole here. I guess we'll call that the second hole. Then I'm going to skip over the middle hole, and I'm going to go to the 1, 2, 3, 4th hole here. I'm going to set this down. I'm going to go through the 5th hole. I'm going to go back through this 4th hole. And then back through this center hole. When I pulled the thread through the center hole again, I want it so that one thread is on one side of this and one thread is on the other side, so that when I tie these two together, it won't slip through the hole. Also, this is looking a little rough where the needles went through, so I'm going to think about how I can make that look a little bit better and tie a knot. So this ended up being plenty, so you probably only really need 3 lengths worth. Trim. This is the part where I'm going to fold in this extra part of the paper or the pages. A little bit off like this. I really want to cover up this stitching on the inside. It's really, I just don't really care for it very much. And since I have this extra paper, I thought that I could use it and glue it on top. So the grain on this paper, now that it's cut, is running this way. It's grain long, which is ideally how I want to be folding this. If I glued this down like this, it would be going against the grain and it wouldn't fold very nicely. So that's why I'm laying this out. This is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna have these just glued right down the middle here to cover up the stitching. These are gonna fold in, and then maybe I'll glue this side down, maybe I'll leave it folded as well. So I have my PVA glue that I'm going to use, just regular PVA glue, and I'm going to use my glue brush for this. You could just use a glue stick too. I'm going to use a magazine for my glue mat. So I'm going to see where I need to glue this. If you're wondering where I get my PVA glue, I get it from hollanders.com. I got a whole gallon last time. It's lasted me quite a long time. Make a little mask so that the glue only gets on the part that I want it on, roughly. And then I'm going to add my glue. I didn't quite add enough glue, so I'm going to use my micro spatula. I'm going to add just a little bit more glue. I think for this one I'm just going to maybe I'll just do a fancy. Gotta tuck these back in. For a simple elastic closure, what I'm gonna do is just wrap this around, and then I'm going to cut just a little bit more length. I'm going to punch a hole with my awl in the back, kind in the middle, maybe an inch or so, maybe half an inch in. And then I'm going to put both ends into this hole. Once I have both ends through that hole, I'm going to close it up and look at those ends again. And then I'm going to just pull until it feels like the right amount. Then once you have the right length, gonna come back in here and just tie it into a double knot so that it doesn't pull through. Trim it a little bit shorter. And then you have a great little closure, really simple. One of the things that I would like to do is take one of these papers and cover this here. Maybe this part right here. I found this in the book. It says the stars still shine. And I'm just going to use my glue stick this time. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and click subscribe to see future videos like this one. Paper, bookbinding. I hope you found some inspiration in this video, and I'd be curious to hear what you would use this notebook for. If you make something similar to this and you'd like to share it on Instagram, go ahead and tag me at Feinberg Art Studio so that I can see. It'd be so fun to see what you've created. All right, I'll see you next time.